All right, we're back live. Sorry about that. Hopefully, those that were on can come back on. I know you had a couple questions, so I want to get back to it. I apologize that I had to switch something. Um, so yeah, let me know if you have any questions, where you're joining from, and just let me know what's going on. It's Monday night. I'm about to record a podcast here, so I had a couple minutes. So if you had any questions, be happy to answer. So yeah, my co-host Alan is on his way over. We're going to record a podcast now, the Dad University podcast. So that's good. Never stops. It's always something going on. So let me know how you guys are doing, where you're joining me from. If you have any questions, Toxic Avenger, when will my daughter start to become a daddy's girl? Well, that's something that depends on how much time you spend with her, but you can't necessarily make her, quote, a daddy's girl. If you mean by, if I'm inferring that maybe you mean that you want to have a stronger bond with her, that comes in time. I don't know how old your daughter is, but you've got to you've got to spend that time, and that bond may not happen right away. And so I think what happens is, hopefully you're not competing with your wife to be a daddy's girl versus if she's really close with her mom. I love the fact that my kids are really close with my wife, and it warms my heart to know that they're really close. And if I want to be close, I've got to do things that are gonna allow them to want to be close. And so me providing affection and spending the quality time together, so all those things. So there's not really a timeline, but you just got to put in that time and put in that effort. So sorry, my fingers are on the thing. Is it okay for a 4-month-old to watch TV? Here's the thing, TV, computers, all of it, none of it's great for a child. It's not good for an adult either. But prior to a year old or so, I mean, the reality is that kids enjoy it for a reason. My personal opinion, we tried to keep it away for the most part. There was some, I think at the time when my son was young, there was like a baby Mozart or some learning things that we were showing him. But I think you're really supposed to limit the screen time, and so at the most, I think before they're a year old, it should be maybe 30 minutes in a day. It really shouldn't be longer than that. I don't know that many parents adhere to that, or maybe, it's special occasions in that case. I mean, let's be honest that, a screen can be a really good babysitter. And so if you're sitting there and you don't have to then interact with the child, but you want to get something done, that, the screen can do that. So you got to be mindful of, why you're doing it, or the amount of time that you're doing it. And so I think 30 minutes in a day is not a horrible thing. I'm not a scientist. There have been some studies and some things are coming out from the organizations that give some guidelines, and you might want to be within those guidelines if you're concerned about it. But it depends what your concern is too. It obviously, like, you're spending time with the child and talking with the child and doing all those stuff. That's not what the issue is. But whatever your issue might be or that you're concerned about, you just might want to put that in check and make sure. So. But good questions. Thank you, guys. I'm about to record here. My co-host Alan will be popping in soon. We're about to record the podcast. Maybe I'll stream a little bit of the podcast recording. I don't know if anyone is interested in that, but that would be kind of interesting. Maybe you guys can kind of see a little bit behind the scenes of when we're going to record a podcast. Maybe just a couple minutes. I'm not sure. Let me know if that's an interest of yours. And but yeah, I wanted to come on live. Got the studio set up. Here, I can show you. There's some lights here, the backdrop that you're probably familiar with if you've watched our videos. We've got camera there, camera there. Finally got a second camera, so that's cool. So we can record from different angles. And yeah, so just about to record. Let's see. Sometimes, you know what? These chats don't come on the screen. I know that the last time I was on live, a bunch of people were asking questions and I couldn't see them. So let me know what you guys are up to. What it's a Monday night. What are you doing watching YouTube? Are you trying to learn something? Are you just doing entertainment? Yeah, do you watch YouTube while you watch TV? Oh, here's a question. Is there any good activities you can think of for twins? You have a boy and a girl doing a month. Well, activities, yeah, there's going to be plenty of activities that whether you can do them for twins or not. But what I'd say is the activities, you still have a while for those activities. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. You know, there's tons of activities that you can do with your children, but when they're that young and they're just going to be newborns, a lot of the activity is just sitting there and hanging out with them. You know, it's holding them. They're not going to remember stuff, and so you know, a lot of it is that bonding time. It's spending time with them, holding them, and you know, kissing them, and just being there, feeding them, changing them. You know, so I wouldn't worry too much about specific activities. If you're feeling like you've got to get some activities planned, that's going to be a while. Just concentrate on the pregnancy, making sure, you know, everything's okay and that you're supporting her. And then once, you know, you have the babies, you'll be excited to just spending the time. Sometimes just sitting there and doing nothing can actually be pretty exciting, especially when they start interacting with you. So it can be fun. Let me see what else. Oh, sorry. Tyann asks, how can I help my husband be more involved with our pregnancy? Well, so I've done a couple podcasts and videos about this where, you know, and podcast interviews too, where I've been interviewed. You know, in getting a husband more involved, there's a couple things of, you know, you have to look at it too as why you want him to be involved. In other words, you're feeling like that there's something missing, or he's not maybe as excited about it as you are. And sometimes for a guy, it is difficult to feel, you know, to feel the bond, especially when the baby's not there yet. You know, you get to feel the baby inside of you. There's an immediate bond there. And you have that attachment where he does not, you know, and he can be excited about it maybe, but I know it wasn't real for me, you know, until the actual baby is born. And then even then I didn't bond with the baby right away. So as far as getting him more involved, you know, if you still have, I think you had said, yeah, getting him more involved with the pregnancy. So I don't know if that means, you know, having him go to doctor's appointments, doing those things, but you know, you can't force someone to, and just because he's not really involved doesn't mean that he doesn't care. You know, I'm assuming you've already had that conversation with him of that it's important to you, because that's what it sounds like. But you have to keep in mind that, you know, everybody's different, and so you've got to be careful if you're pressuring him into being more involved, you know, because there's probably going to be some pushback. The other thing can be, you know, because once the baby is born, you know, that's a different story. But for him, it could be that the pregnancy, it's just not as real yet. And I know for me, that kind of was the case, you know, until the actual, you know, the baby was born. It was kind of surreal. I just didn't know. So maybe if you can expand on that a little bit of what it is that you want him to do as it relates to the pregnancy. And I'm assuming maybe just be more excited or go to the doctor's appointments, but I don't know. Maybe you can add on to that on the question. Sorry, my finger's on here. I know that's kind of a weird. For some reason, the chats go away and I can't see them. Oh, you're watching while painting the kids' room. Awesome. That's so cool. Hey, Anthony, what's happening? Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying the videos. I'm glad you guys enjoy these videos. It's really cool to get the feedback and to see that it's helping people. Just what was it? It was a couple times ago I came on, and a guy was actually in the delivery room waiting for the baby to be delivered, and he popped on and was on live with us. So that was pretty cool. It's really cool to see, and so. I think I mentioned it earlier, but if you guys just came on, I'm getting ready to record a podcast tonight. It's about 6:15 or so here in San Diego. Chris, glad you're enjoying the videos. Awesome. Yeah, so do some late night recordings. I actually recorded Thursday's video this morning, and that was a good one. That is, it was ways to, or things that new dads don't need to worry about. So you'll be getting that on Thursday, that launches. And then right now we're going to record a couple podcasts. And so I don't know if you guys are aware that we do a podcast, but you can get the Dad University podcast. And basically what it is it's longer versions of a lot of the topics that we talk about. So if there is a topic that is of interest to you, whether you're a new dad or some of the other things that we talk about, the podcast goes into more depth, and you can get that on any of the podcatchers, iTunes, Stitcher, even Spotify, iHeart, all of them have that. And so you could get the podcast if you're interested. It's called the Dad University Podcast. And so my co-host, I have a co-host, Alan, great guy, and he's coming in. He's coming over. We've been doing that actually for it's been many years now. We have 250 something episodes, and actually Alan just walked in. We have 250 something episodes of the podcast, so that's kind of cool. I'm just doing a live on YouTube. Here's Alan, the co-host, there, setting up. I'm going to set up the podcast. I was thinking I might just stay live and while we do our first podcast. I don't know if anyone's interested in seeing that, but a little bit of behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, see all the setup.
For some, it might be completely boring, but so I've got, let me see, I've got the camera here. So I don't know where your stand's going to be, but we'll try to coordinate that. Let me get my stuff. Okay. Alan's going to set up. He does all the technical stuff, which is awesome because then I don't have to deal with it. So just walking in another office here. Got my laptop. Let's see. It's hard to do all this one-handed. I guess that's why people have other people doing their videos for them, which sometimes I do that, but not always. So I got multiple offices here. I'm trying to coordinate this. Let's see. This is a fairly new office for me. Might be kind of hard to do it, but if you guys want to hang out and there's people that want to see it, what the heck, I'll do it. But let's see if I can set this up. Although, you know what, that's going to be in the way of that camera. So let's see. Got multiple cameras we're setting up, microphones. It's probably got to be a little bit nauseating when I'm walking all over the place.
A little dizzying experience.
Sorry. Oh, he put the batteries. Let's see. I got to get batteries. So I don't know if this is going to be difficult for people to follow along, but let me put this down for a second. Maybe that's not good. It's wobbling all over the place. Sorry. Yeah. There we go. It's at least stable, but I got to put these in. It's not fancy. There's not a whole camera crew here. You got to get it done. Let's see. Uh-oh. Oh. There you go. You got to be fairly technical too, which I am not. We're going to turn some lights on. I'm gonna kick things as I walk around. Let's see. We've got that light. We've got this light. We've got lighting. There's a camera over here. And for those of you just joining us, we are, I'm attempting to do a live recording of a podcast as we record our podcast, which our podcasts are not live. Our podcasts are recorded. And like I said, the podcasts are kind of an extension of the other topics that I talk about in the videos. So if you like the video, why is it so hard to put a battery in?
With one hand, you might want to.
Yeah, that's why. It's because I have one hand. Oh, there we go. I was putting it in the right way. That's all right. So, and this is Alan, my co-host here.
Hey.
And let me see if this is working. Got that camera on. All right. Let me see what I can do here. Maybe I can set this up. I don't know how. Let's see. Let's see if that records. This might not be exciting. It might. I don't know. If somebody wants to watch it. Let me see. So I got that recording. This is recording. However, this is going to be too low for me. Let's see. I'm going to have to sit down. So that's not going to work.
What?
Sir, I'll be right back.
What are you doing?
This camera, this is too low.
Oh.
This was all set up like fairly perfect, and now it doesn't seem perfect.
Maybe you have two different, you have a different principle. You added an X factor.
Well, we thought you'd be here. We knew you were going to be here.
Yeah.
It's just this stuff kind of moves. And so, and then I have to change this to balance 1/3. Plus 1/3. All right. All right. How am I doing here? 1 2/3. All right. So I don't know if this is worth seeing, but what the heck? I'm gonna leave it for now, and you'll see how this is done. Behind the scenes, how exciting. Let's see. See, and I got Alan here, which he's way better technically than I am. That's not going to be a good angle, too. So that one's recording. Let's see. Too many to be things at once.
Yeah, it was like multiple areas.
So now I'm not in frame here. Let's see. This is still. This is not right. That got hit somehow. What do you guys think? Is this interesting at all? Let me D-Dot podcast, 37 years old. Let's see. New dad in about a month. Common mistakes I can avoid. There's a lot, especially when you're dealing with pregnancy. But I would suggest checking out the pregnancy videos, just things that you can do. This is the brightness now. It's just crazy. You know what? I gotta log off because this is too complicated. So
Where are you logging?
Well, just because I can't manage multiple things at once, because there's people doing questions on here. So
Do a Q&A, and then say, hey, we're recording.
wait, what? You know me, I can't multitask.
You don't have to address everything that's going on there.
Just, hey, well, you're now recording, but,
Yeah.
or they can, maybe we'll do a Q&A.
Yeah, well, I know. I won't be able to answer any of those questions. So,
If you really want to do it that way, we can actually have a feed so that we address the things that we talk about on the podcast and then integrate that into the podcast.
that's recording. That's recording. All right.
The, what is it?
Is that your sound?
Nope, yeah, so,
Good. So now you guys can see how we do the podcast. Let me see. We got episode 252. How's it sound?
be fine.
Is that my phone? Oh, God. My phone's notifications are going off, too.
On top of everything else.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
All right. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to do this. How's that sound?
Test it.
Good. Sibilis. 1, 2. Testing.
Yep. Should
We're
be
just
good.
testing the sound.
Yeah, should be good.
All right. You guys ready?
You got any of that
This is where it all happens.
sponsor?
Yes, I do.
Do
What?
you?
Do you need some?
I thought it was kind of meta and pretty cool that you have a sponsor that's actually something I really want right now. Oh yeah, a little.
Yeah.
You have some?
Okay, but before we start, then I got to give Alan a Pure Boost.
Sponsored by.
Yes, thanks to our sponsor, Pure Boost. You can go to gopureboost.com and use the coupon code. Actually, go to gopureboost.com/daduniversity,
Okay.
and you can get our coupon code.
That's
Hit-
100% organic too. It's actually good.
It's good stuff. No,
That's
is that what you want?
Yeah.
Oh,
You got it. Like water and that.
Yeah. What flavor?
What have we got? Well, acai if you have that.
Yep.
Sweet. Thanks.
Legit.
It's legit. It was not a.
That wasn't planned.
That was not planned. I thought that'd be a good idea to have some. Thank you.
All right. We need servants.
Yeah.
That looks really light on that side. This side's good. We're good. We're recording. Okay. Ready?
More or less.
Oh, you still need to get your.
You know what it's up. There we go. All right.
All right, we're just doing a little podcast here if you're just joining us. Recording our podcast. This is not the typical recording. This is just a live feed on YouTube. But I wanted to give a little bit of behind the scenes of us recording, and so that's what it is. I've got 2 different cameras there. We've got some lights going. So if it looks a little bit strange here, it's because I didn't set this camera up to properly light and record this. I guess I could.
Yeah, I think it shows up fine because the
Yeah.
well, you're facing the light, so that might be
Yeah,
fine as well.
that'll be fine. Whatever. Maybe I can put it back farther so I'm not so close. They don't need to see me that close. All right, we ready? 252?
Is it okay?
Yeah. You recording?
Yep.
Here we go. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is the Dad University Podcast, episode 252.
Yeah.
Alan, how are you?
Good. Feeling good today.
Hey, there's a lot going on. I've
Yeah.
got a live stream going,
Yeah.
recording what we're doing. I've got cameras recording. I got lights. We've got it all going on.
Full-on production studio. I'm looking at cameras behind me.
At least we're
next to
pretending.
me. And yeah, there's camera to the right, camera to the left. We got a paparazzi in the back.
A lot going on. A lot going on. In this episode, I want to talk about how to be a good father. It's pretty generic.
I was gonna say it's
But-
pretty vague.
But you know what? A lot of people just ask that simple question, like,
Right.
how can I be a good father? What do I need to do to be a good father? And,
Yeah.
and there are certain things that, at least I believe, need to be done in order to do that.
Right.
Being a good father can mean different things to different people. You know, what's the end result that you want from this? Is it like, that you want your child when they get older to call you and go out to lunch.
Sure.
You want in your mind, them being happy and having their own family. That's considered success.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's material success. Whatever your thought is to having a good relationship with your child. That's what that's what we're talking about, and that's what I want to convey. I actually set out to define this, and I wanted to really put together something that defined what it was to be a good father. And so I created the fatherhood formula. And if you recall, we've gone over this a couple times.
Yeah.
I've made several videos of this. I have a playlist on YouTube which has all 7 videos, or all 7 topics of the 7 principles. And I've gone over each of those principles in the podcast as well. It doesn't matter whether you are a new father, an experienced father, or you just, you want to improve some of your skills or whatever. Just the fatherhood formula covers a pretty wide basis.
Yeah.
It's pretty comprehensive in what it talks about. And each one of the principles, to me, are really, really important. And so that's why I created it. So
Yeah, I like it.
I want to go over those principles again, just to reiterate, because for me, that's really what it is about being a good father, is that you're able to cover these principles. These are things that you do, the ways that you can be a good father. So the first one is commitment. Commitment really is committing to your role as a father. Is fatherhood a priority to you?
Yeah.
Us men have problems with commitment sometimes.
Yeah.
You've already jumped, for many of us, we've jumped and become either married or in a relationship or whatever. And so you've gotten through that part of the commitment. And then now you've had a child. And you kind of, whether you like it or not, you have the child, but you then have to make the decision of, are you committed to fatherhood? Are you committed to making that effort, improving, being really involved, all of those things that we're gonna talk about? You really have to commit and make it a priority. My hope is that if you're listening to this podcast, you've already committed.
Yeah.
You've already committed. You're wanting to improve things. You're wanting to do things. So I think it's crucial to remember this for the future. Even though you're prioritized right now, you might be a new dad, you're very excited, you're like, yes, I really want to be a good dad. But you have to remember that when the child is older and you're going through some serious stuff with that child,
Sure. Yeah.
I'm still committed to being a good father.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like I said, you're going to be challenged. There's a lot of challenges in fatherhood.
Yeah.
Things are going to pull at your time and your energy, and the commitment is really the foundation for it all. And for me, that's what I think, that's kind of the choice that I made about starting, Dad University.
Sure,
I knew that by doing this, for me, I was going to stay committed. And it's not that I wouldn't be committed to my kids.
No, of course not. But it sets the mindset. It's really resetting your mindset to say, hey, I need to really start now.
Right.
Put that in my mindset that I need to be committed throughout, no matter what happens, basically.
Totally.
So you're in it for the long haul.
Right. Yeah. You're definitely, you prioritize.
Yeah.
That's really what happens. So that's an important thing. It doesn't matter. You can't take it lightly. I should say the commitment is something that is very serious. It's something that takes a lot of effort. And like I said, you don't want to take that lightly.
Yeah, you never stop being a parent.
No.
And not to be somber, but
Ever.
even never. Even if you pass, you're still a parent.
Right.
Just someone that still sees it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the first principle. The second, contact. And so for many men, they may have had a father who wasn't very affectionate, and they may even feel like they had a good father, even though they weren't affectionate, because the dad was a provider, the dad was involved with their life, whatever. But this specific thing about contact, what I'm saying is that you could have had a good dad, But they could have been even better, not taking away from what they are, but they could have been even better if they would have provided that affection. You know, that is something that the touch is very crucial, and the affection from a father is powerful and meaningful. And so, you know, give your child hugs and kisses and affection. You know, it really doesn't matter what age they are. You're not going to spoil them too much. I had the question the other day. Somebody had asked about, like, you know, can you spoil your child with affection? Like, too much? No, you can't, especially when they're young. You know, hold their hand while they're still willing to do it with you. You know, put your arm around them, sit close to them while you're watching TV. Just remember that the contact will help you become a better father, and it's something that's just so important. It was interesting. My son, you know, and I think I've been affectionate in stints, like where I notice that I'm like, feel like I'm pulling, like I'm not as affectionate in certain times, and so then I will like consciously be more affectionate,
Yeah.
you know, with my children. And it was interesting because the other day I was walking with my son, and he's 11 now. And so, I mean, you know, he's a fairly affectionate child, not like my daughter. My daughter's very affectionate. But he grabbed my hand when we were walking. And I was like, wow, that is cool. Like, because as an 11-year-old boy, it's like he's becoming more, you know, he's
macho.
cooler, his friends, whatever.
Yeah.
But we were walking somewhere, and like I was like, oh, I'm going to take advantage of this. Like,
Yeah.
he's willing to hold my hand.
Yeah.
And at first, I got to be honest, it was like, whoa, like I was a little bit taken aback because I hadn't
Yeah.
held his hand in quite a bit.
Sure.
And as he's older, but it was awesome, you know. And I put my arm around him, and I was just like, you know, I felt really special to me.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was willing to do that too was cool, you know. So that contact, it helps create that bond. You know, there's other things that we'll talk about that help create a bond, but that contact is really, really good. The number 3 principle, connection. All humans thrive on connection. We need connection. The negative part is that if you don't connect with your child in a good way,
Yeah.
they are more likely to connect to others in a bad way. And so, you know, fathers can connect to their kids in many, many different ways. The contact that I just talked about, you know, through play, through, you know, reading with them and doing things with them and spending that time, that you can create that connection, talking with them.
Yeah.
There's all different ways that you can connect with them. But the connection takes a lot of effort. I will say, connection is one of those things that doesn't always just happen because you're the parent.
Right. Yeah.
You have to make that's
It's
one
active.
that's one of the things that actually takes a lot of effort.
Sure.
And so if you make that effort, and for some guys and fathers, that connection idea is uncomfortable, it's foreign, it's not something that they were used to because maybe they didn't have as much of a connection, so they don't really know how.
Right.
Sometimes that on an emotional level. And keep in mind, we also have a tendency to connect with our children, and the same thing we try to do with our spouse, in the way that feels good for us.
Sure.
You know, so we do things because we like them,
Yeah.
instead of thinking about how the other person might connect.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really important with your child. What is it that they like to do? What is it that they like to talk about? You know, and this is a situation where you can't think about yourself. When you're trying to connect with the other person, you need to do what they want to do to connect.
Yeah.
That's how you connect with them. It's not about you at all.
Yeah.
And so, keep this in mind, fellows, for your spouse as well, for your significant
Right.
other.
Yeah. A lot of these principles are
Yeah.
applicable to
Yeah,
relationships.
you don't
as
do
well.
what you think you want.
Yeah.
You do what they want.
Right.
And for your children, it absolutely, you know, like if let's say your child's into gaming, you know, it's you going and playing a game with them.
Yeah.
You know, or if it's a sport, you going and playing the sport with them. Or if it's music, it's listening to their music with
Yeah.
them. And, you know, certainly you can try to connect to them with things that you're interested in, like, you know, a dad bringing his son to a car show.
Sure.
You know, because the dad loves cars.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the kid might like cars.
It might spark an interest.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how they connect. My dad and I used to go to baseball card shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so because I liked the cards, and my
Yeah.
dad knew that, and
Yeah.
so he connected with me that way. He was smart about it. He knew, it's like, all right, Jason loves these shows. We'll go to these shows. So, I mean, he understood that.
Yeah.
That in order to, maybe it was my mom that helped him,
Yeah.
but he understood that that's how he's going to connect with me.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Was by doing something that I enjoyed. The fourth principle in being a good father, communication. So we often think that communication is talking. And with kids, it's listening.
Mm-hmm.
So good communication with a child is you listening to them. It's not you talking to them.
Right.
And we have a tendency as men not to always be good listeners. I mean, it just as a stereotype and in general. I know that I've had to practice being a good listener. It's not something that came naturally for me.
Yeah.
So I had to practice that. Oh, okay, yeah, I know, I hear that, because I always thinking of the next thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, like even if my wife's saying something, I'm like, I'm not even listening. I'm thinking of what I'm gonna say in response to it. You know, instead of actually listening. As you can tell, I like to talk. And so, you know, we have a tendency even to provide advice when we're not asked. You know. And our children will say something, and then we immediately give them advice, or our
Yeah.
spouse says something, we give them, and they're not asking for advice
Right.
at all.
We
They're
had that
just-
discussion about
yeah,
that. Like, that
they're-
was one of my big pet peeves growing up, is that when people just try to throw advice down my throat. I'm
Yeah.
like, I just want to talk about whatever it is I'm talking about. I don't need, like, I actually know what to do. I just need to get off my chest.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so here's the thing too: is that only 7% of communication is what you say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the other 93% is how you say it and your nonverbal communication.
Right.
So, and if you don't believe this, think about when you were a kid and your parent just gave you a look.
Right.
They didn't say anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
They just gave you a look, and you knew exactly
Yeah.
what they were thinking.
Yeah. My father told me about, because my grandfather on my dad's side was gone before I was even born. But he told me, because he never laid a hand on me, but he gave me a look and made me stop with exactly what I was doing wrong, rethink
Yeah.
everything.
Absolutely. That's nonverbal communication.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I can do that with my kids. Like, you know, just it's like this stunned look, or it's a
Yeah.
little bit angry. Like,
Yeah.
what are you
It's
about
like-
to do? And we just know. Like, you know, we know that with our spouse too. Like that nonverbal communication. It's like you just know. And so, you know, the parent sometimes doesn't even need to say anything. And
Yeah.
so that communication. Think about it. About listening to your child if you want to communicate with them.
Yeah.
That's what's important.
Yeah.
The fifth principle, character. If you want to know how to be a good father, lead by example. Your character and how you handle yourself is absolutely crucial. The child is watching you, they're listening to you, they're doing exactly what you do. If you don't think so, just watch your kid
Yeah.
or listen to your child.
Yeah.
They will repeat monkey see, monkey do. It doesn't matter. The good things and the bad things, you will see them do those
They're
exact same.
picking up on all things.
Yeah, and sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's
Yeah. So you gotta
like,
watch.
all right, he picked up on this, or she's doing that. Nah, then that one you don't. you
Yeah.
don't want that.
Great. Oh,
Yeah.
that one. No.
So how are you treating mom? How are you treating the people around you? You know, are you expecting things of your child that you're not doing yourself? Because I said, whether it's positive or negative, you are showing them the way through your character.
Right.
No question.
Yeah.
So, got to have good character if you want to be a good father. The number 6 principle in being a good father is coaching. And I'm going to explain this. You need to switch your thinking from being a parent to a coach. And so what that means is, like, when your child messes up, you're not yelling at them. You're showing them the proper way to do something. You know, whatever it is that they messed up on, maybe they said something wrong, maybe they did something wrong, you're showing them the right way to do it. Getting upset at them doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't teach them anything. So it's important just to to know that and kind of switch your thinking a little bit. Think about it yourself as a coach. A coach will prepare a player for a game, and we are preparing. Well, that's live.
Yeah.
See, so here's what happens. We're recording live. We're recording for the podcast. And so then I get a cough and I've got to now re-record it. So for people who are live on YouTube, I apologize. I will get to the questions right after this.
Okay.
I just wanted to record a little bit and see how it went.
Can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
And make a note 18
Note 18
to Wes.
to Wes.
Just make a note, put 18 on
Okay. 18 to Wesley.
it. Yeah.
Whatever that means.
That,
Okay.
Where the error happened.
Well, you talk too, right?
Mhm.
So I'm saying he can hear you on the recording. Is that what you mean, or you're saying
No,
writing
recording.
down?
No, I need you to make a note of that.
Write it down.
Yeah.
18
Yeah.
in episode 252.
Yeah.
Okay.
Normally we would pause, but there was no pause.
All right. Like a coach preparing a player for a game, we as parents are preparing our kids for life. They need to be able to do things for themselves, and they need to learn the ways of the world. So it's our job to, let them do the things on their own. It's okay if they fail. They're going to get up, try again. But like I said, you're acting as a coach, not as a parent. And it's a very different mindset. And for me, when I made this switch, it was pretty profound that I changed the way that I was parenting. Because I was really thinking of myself as like a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, they didn't understand this. They're doing this wrong. I've got to show them the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's important with what they say, how they talk, what they do, all of that. And then the seventh principle in trying to be a good father is consistency. So here's the example I would give is if you want to get in shape, do you just go to the gym for, a weekend and all of a sudden you're totally ripped? It's not Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. Totally gotta get
Yeah,
ripped.
if you want to lose weight, you don't just eat healthy for a couple days, like, whoa, those pounds just fell right off. No, when you want something to be effective, you have to do it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with being a good father. You have to do these things over and over and over again. Nothing happens quickly. It is something that we've been implementing for years.
Yeah.
And then finally the child is like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, right.
And you want them to understand it right away or whatever it is that you're trying to, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
This is something that takes time. It is a marathon. It is not a sprint.
Yeah.
That's
Like most
really what fatherhood is.
Like any skill you develop,
Right.
that's 90%. You're not naturally good at just everything.
Right. And the principles in this video, whether we're talking about the contact, we're talking about communication, coaching, you have to do them over and over and over again for consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is we get lazy. We're tired. It's easier to not be consistent.
Yeah.
It really is. And if you're watching this video, listening to the podcast, whatever, you just have to know that it's going to take a lot of effort, but it is so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's these 7 principles. I feel like the fatherhood formula sort of outlines these things that if you're able to do all of these things, and granted, you may have to not do all of them perfectly, you can still be a good father. But if you can do all these things and you're pretty consistent with all of them, it's pretty amazing how that will turn out.
Yeah.
And, I'd like to feel like, I'm making that effort to do all those things. You're never going to be perfect,
Right.
but knowing that, hey, maybe today I was really good at this, this, and this. Tomorrow I'm going to try to do that, that, and that. And that's why I said, like, even with the affection, I'm not affectionate with my kids all the time.
Right.
But I know I can feel that and be like, you know what? I need to go home and hug my kids.
Yeah.
There's those evaluations consistently, and I'm not beating myself up over it, but it's like, you know what? Maybe I need to concentrate on that a little bit more.
Right.
So we'd love to hear from you. What do you think it takes to be a good father? Alan, if they have comments or feedback, what should they do?
They should email us, podcast@daduniversity.com. Maybe hit us up on our social media channels, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, pretty much, at DadUniv or Dad University. Just look us up.
Right
And make sure that you go to YouTube. There's a lot of great videos about Dad University, including stuff that we talk about on the podcast and the podcast itself. And if you do nothing else, go to the podcatcher you're listening to us on now, whether it's Apple or Stitcher or wherever you can find us, and subscribe to that channel and leave some comments because it really helps perpetuate the show.
Awesome. Well, as always, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
All right, let me turn off these videos here. All right.
Let me say this.
Let me see. There were some questions here. Let me just see if I can get to them. There's a couple questions. God, good stuff, guys. Hey, so Joseph asks, how... Let me just answer this real quick. This is a good question. Sorry.
Do you want me to record these?
No. No. How do I deal with a stagnant girlfriend? I've been a stepdad and newly father too with my girlfriend. I find myself doing everything without it being noticed and appreciated. Much help is necessary. So, Joseph, that is tough because when you feel like you're doing everything and people aren't really noticing it, it's difficult. The thing you have to keep in mind is you've got to switch your mindset that you're doing those things because you are a good person and because you care about the child and or because you care about your girlfriend, not because you're going to get appreciated or you're going to get accolades for that. Now, I get it. We all want to feel appreciated. So what you can also do is you're going to have to look at yourself. And the reason I say this is because I've been in this situation. I felt like when my kids were really young too, I was working really hard. I felt like I was doing a lot of things, but I had to actually take a look at myself and had to see my own attitude about it and how I was dealing and treating my wife as well. And part of it was I had a ton of expectations on her. And what I did is I ended up backing off on my expectations and just really concentrating on being the best version of myself and not having expectations of her. And what ended up happening is that it was a total 360 or 180, I should say, not 360.
360. She went right back to where she was starting.
Is my wife really felt herself being appreciated. And as a result of that, I felt like I was being more appreciated, and it was this weird dynamic. So I can understand that you can't force someone to appreciate you. You can certainly have a discussion and bring it up in a nice way. Have it when you're have the discussion when you're calm, but you're going to want to be clear about it and saying, hey, I feel like I'm doing a lot. Write a schedule out. Maybe if there's duties, you have to actually write them out and say, you're responsible for this, I'm responsible for this on this day, you're responsible for this on that day, and be very clear about expectations and see if she's on board with that. If she's not, then you have to evaluate that. If somebody's not willing to contribute or not willing to do something. But I would imagine if you had a conversation with her, or maybe you heard what's going on her side, try to be a little bit more empathetic. Maybe you'll find out, some way into her heart. You also are going to want to find her love language. That if it's really about her, I did a video on love languages. There's 5 love languages. You got to find out. Maybe you're doing a bunch of stuff, but that's not her love language. Maybe her love language is you saying something to her. Or maybe her love language is gifts. You doing acts of service, cleaning the house, taking the kid, that's not that big of a deal for her. So you have to also understand her love language. So But that was a good one. Thank you. That was a good question. We've got to record here. I'm gonna have to sign off. I hate that because there's so many good people here.
Can you continue doing the live? Why not?
Well, it's on almost an hour already.
No, does it still?
It's still recording, I guess.
It won't shut down, right?
No, but you want to do a 3-hour recording? What the heck?
Well, if you have the capacity to do it.
Yeah, I think so.
Why not?
Well, it's streaming. It's recording on.
Yeah.
All right, I guess we're gonna leave this.
Just leave it on. Just insight into how we do this process.
All right, I gotta change though because we're recording. I'm only gonna put a different shirt on.
The people who are tuning into the live part.
Although they can only hear you.
Yeah, that's
Can't
fine.
see you.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I can go over there.
Alan's gonna come over.
I'm all dressed up for some reason today too. Actually, I'm starting class today. For the live part, we record several episodes, usually like 3 or 4, before we go and then have to chop them up. For the videos, we want to look like there's some kind of pattern of weekly things. So Jason's just changing for that. But the people who are behind the scenes actually can see all that. And now we're in the process of doing that. So if you have any questions or want to know how we do
Cool.
these things, you kind of know, right? There you go.
Look at that.
A lot more swag too. Look at
I'm a
Dad
whole
University
different
swag.
guy now. It looks like I recorded it on a different day. That's the power of video and magic. It looks like we're recording it a totally different day, and it's actually the same day. It's
Yeah.
called batching. And what happens is that we're all busy people. And so if you can batch things, I need to record videos in batches better because I don't. I actually do them every week. But we're going to look into doing that. And the reason for that is then I can provide more content that way. As an example, I think Alan just said, was we'll record 4 podcasts in a row. And that gives us the ability then to have 4 podcasts for the month. And it's a lot easier that way rather than every single week recording. All right. Sorry about my finger on here. Anthony, this is a good question. 7-year-old daughter says we don't love her if we don't let her go to sleep in our bed. She won't sleep in her own room. She says she is lonely, says we just don't understand and she can't explain it. We just don't let her go to sleep in our bed and try to get her back into her bed. You know, that's your call. I mean, we did sleep training early on with our kids. You know, if it is disruptive to you, in other words, you and your wife want your bed back and you don't want the child there, then yes, you do need to do that and you need to wean her back into being in her own bed. And there's some techniques for that. If it is something where you don't mind, your wife doesn't mind, co-sleeping is an individual decision. You know, that's just it. If you're okay with it and everybody's okay with it, but if you're not, then yeah, I would suggest, you know, you start out slowly and you might have the conversation with your daughter and say, hey, listen, it's important that you sleep in your room. And I understand you're scared. You want to be empathetic towards her. And whether she's scared or she doesn't feel to love you, and you can reassure her and say, this has nothing to do with our love. We love you very much. But it is time for you to sleep on your own. So how can we get you, what are the things that we can do to build up to that? Maybe you're not going to do it right away. But maybe, you stay in her room until she falls asleep. That's not a fun one, by the way. But at some point, you're going to have to, and this is a longer conversation because I probably want to know some history. But yeah, you're going to have to be a little bit more, I would say, assertive about it. And, let her know, maybe you can leave a light on, find out what her fears are. That if the fear is being in the dark, leave a night light on. If she feels like there's monsters, there's been things where, you can have a spray bottle or you have a glass of water and you say, well, the monsters don't come near water. There's all kinds of things that you can do, and there's some resources out for that. But yeah, I mean, you're starting a little bit later, because it's helpful if it's a little earlier, but it is what it is. So I think you just have to be adamant about it, and you keep trying, and it's not going to happen overnight. if there's some more serious issues, then I might suggest a local therapist or somebody local who can actually help you with that and walk through it and the daily sort of routines that will go along with that, because that's something that it might be a hard habit to break. So, all right, we're gonna get back now to recording. Ready?
These on?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to turn those on. Let me. I got a cool remote for this one. All right. How to be a good father. We just did. That was episode 252. Oh, this one's really good. 253 is what to do when your child annoys you.
Yeah.
Guys, ready for that one? You guys may have seen, I just recently recorded a video on this topic. So I'm going to get to the podcast now. For you, those of you just joining us, I've got YouTube streaming just as a recording. We are recording the podcast that we do, the Dad University podcast. So I just want to give you a little bit behind the scenes of that. Let me turn some video on. That one's on.
How come you don't have a cool remote for that one?
I need to get one.
Alright. Oh, you can get extra remotes like for this?
Yeah, I mean, I just have to have multiple remotes and multiple frequencies. So,
Huh.
okay, on camera there,
Camera one.
on camera
two.
there. Yeah,
It's full
you
on
might need to.
production.
You need to move in a little bit, or at least.
I'm in this?
Oh, well, you're on this one, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, good looking face and a voice
Used
like
to-
that. You've got to be
used
used
to
to this.
me.
Woo!
Alright.
You're the face of the show.
Yeah, right. You don't want to be the face of the radio.
A face for radio. I'm getting TikToks now.
Hmm?
I'm not even. I'm getting TikTok notifications. All right. All right. So I gotta get back to this recording. I can't
Focus.
do it. I have multiple stuff going on.
Focus.
All right. Here we go. This is what to do when your child annoys you. Episode 253. Ready?
Hmm?
And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is the Dad University Podcast, episode 253.
253.
Good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
How are
Jason.
you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
God, I love your voice. This episode is quite interesting. It is titled, What to Do When Your Child Annoys You.
Ah, there we go.
Episode 253 already.
Yes.
So here's the thing. It doesn't matter if you have a newborn, a toddler, small child, teen, adult child. We're talking every level there is.
Yeah.
Your child is going to annoy you.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? Well, newborns don't really annoy you.
No,
but
not
they're
usually.
cute and
Yeah.
they don't really do much. They don't really know what's going on. So
yeah.
a newborn is not as annoying.
That's you're right.
So we'll keep them out of this. But for the rest of these ages, you better believe that they are going to get on your nerves. Okay? And it's probably a lot.
Mhm.
So in this episode, I'm going to share with you what to do when your child annoys you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with a scenario, okay? Because this annoys me. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to see if you guys can relate to this. You go to work, okay, and you have a pretty eventful day at work. You've got meetings, you got phone calls, you're dealing with customers, whatever it is that you do.
Right.
But I come home, and I'm tired, okay?
Sure.
I'm tired. And I'm walking up towards my front door, and I see a bicycle. Okay, that's supposed to be in the garage. Why
Okay,
is a bicycle near my front door? Okay. There's muffin wrappers. So somebody's eating a bunch of muffins, multiple empty muffin wrappers.
Yeah.
My wife makes these muffins a lot, and so in my case, there happens to be muffin wrappers
Sure, yeah,
consistently. And then really muddy shoes.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a real scenario. I mean, this is all concocted from a real scenario. I'm not making this up.
Sure.
Okay. So if I was really positive, like if I was a positive thinker, which I'd like to pretend that I am, okay, I would look at this and go, wow, my kids are so wonderful, okay? Because they took the bike, and instead of bringing the bike through the house, they stopped right there, okay? Same with the muddy shoes. Instead of going through the house with
yeah.
muddy shoes, because I have seen the bike in the house
Sure,
before.
sure. Right.
With
right.
the muddy shoes, they took them off. They're like, hey, we're not going to get mud in the house. This is a great idea.
Right.
We'll take them off. Wow, they've been taught well.
Sure.
And then the muffin wrappers, I should be thankful that they didn't eat the muffins like in the entryway and get crumbs all over the floor, which happens.
Sure.
And instead, they ate them outside.
Yeah.
Wow, that was really, really considerate. So if I was thinking in that line, really positive, I might just come out of that like, whew,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Right.
But I didn't, just because I'm not
Not a
like that
clean
way.
prevention.
Yeah. So in other words, I was annoyed.
Right.
I was annoyed at that situation. I came home, I'm tired, I'm annoyed that there is stuff all over the place.
Yeah.
And they made a mess. And I haven't even gotten inside yet.
right.
Okay? Forget about that. And so here's the thing is like we're not even going to talk about like how bad it is inside. Okay? Because just this is the prelude to
Right.
what's to come.
Yeah.
But I don't even want to go there. The thing is that the house was clean. The front door, we're talking about specifically, was clean when I left for work. Okay? And the kids left for school. So literally they were at school all day. And then they get home late afternoon, and then I get home in the evening, couple of hours. So it's amazing to me of what children can do within a couple of hours.
right.
Like the cyclone
Yeah,
that
I
they
was
can
gonna
create.
say
And this is mild, by
Yeah.
the way, but I'm still annoyed. I mean, because the muddy shoes are all over the place, the muffin wrappers, like these are things that you would think that they should know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about them before. So what do? Well, I yell, of course.
Natural response.
I get upset. I say, get this bike, put it in the garage, get these muffin wrappers in the garbage, go wash off these. I'm set off now. Okay. And you're probably listening to this and saying, yes, I can relate to this, in some manner. But in less than a couple of hours, these children have managed to do all this, and I've managed to be triggered. These are a trigger for me. So here's what I want to say, is that if your child annoys you, it's your problem. Okay? I'm going to repeat that. If your child annoys you, you are the one with the issue. So I'm not saying that your child doesn't need to be taught how to put away their stuff and to clean and how to behave and what to say and all that. We're not even talking about that. But the fact that I got annoyed is my own fault. I'm responsible for my own feelings. I'm responsible for how I react. It's my fault. So we have a tendency to blame on our children, on our spouse, on everybody else. We have a tendency when we're annoyed to blame them.
Sure.
And I need to take responsibility for myself in that situation. So we actually get to decide how we feel. And the way that you know that is that two different people can walk up to that scenario. And for one person, they get absolutely annoyed because it's a trigger. Something triggers it for them. Whereas for somebody else, it doesn't bother them at all. I don't know in this scenario, but my wife could have walked up there and she didn't even think about that.
Right. Right.
That may have not even been something that she would, but especially the muffin wrappers. But
right.
in these scenarios, two different people are going to have two different reactions. And so the proof of that is that we get triggered differently, we respond differently, and we have a choice of how we respond. And some people choose not to respond in that way, while other people don't control that as well. So you have the choice of whether being totally annoyed or just moving it forward and not worrying about it. And of course, the way that we react in those kinds of situations can often be related to other things that happen. I didn't have a great day at work. Maybe I heard that something happened to a friend and I was upset, or a family member, or I got some bad news, or there's all kinds of inputs and things that we have throughout the day that can affect how we interact with our kids. That if we're somebody who comes home, we're kind of predisposed to all these, to them and the effect it's going to have because of all the stuff that's happened. Because we let it affect us. It just does. It's easier said than done. And, I'm making kind of light of like a pretty profound concept. And I'm making it sound like it's easy. Like, hey, we just have a choice. You can just choose not to be annoyed. Well, the truth is yes, that is the case. And if you can practice this, where you make these choices, I'm telling you that if you just have a little bit of progress, it doesn't take a lot, it's really only a little bit, that your life and how you interact with people will drastically improve. Drastically.
Yeah.
And so we have to figure it out. How do we make that choice? Like, what is it that allows us to make that choice? How do we make the choice that we're not going to get annoyed, that it's not our children that annoy us? So I'm gonna give you a couple techniques. First one, pause. And this is something that we as parents, I know I don't do enough. And I've learned to be able to do this. This is something that has taken practice. Is that you want to stop. You're taking a pause. You're stop and noticing that you are feeling and getting annoyed. So like your heart rate, like for me, my heart rate increases. I might my breath starts to breathe, I start to breathe faster. Yeah. There's actually physical changes in my body that I can feel.
Yeah.
So that's the first step, is that you take the pause and you notice what's going on. The second thing, and the next thing you do, is that you breathe. And I'm telling you, this is real stuff. This actually works. You take an extra long breath. You just realize that you're feeling annoyed. You paused, and you take a second. And so after you've done that pause, you then take in a really deep breath. Mm-hmm. And if you have to do it more than once, then you do it more than once, And what this does is that it gives you a little bit of separation between your brain and when you act.
Sure.
It's the same thing of getting in an argument, about to fight, or you just stop for a second.
Yeah.
And you think, okay, wait a second, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then you start to feel this happening. And so I've gotten now to the point where I do this with my wife, I can do this with my kids. It doesn't always just completely change the situation, but I can tell you a lot of times it does.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Where I literally will say, oh, wait a second. I pause, I'll take a deep breath. And then the third thing you do is you ask yourself, and this is an important one, why am I feeling this way? And you may not know the exact answer right at that moment.
Sure.
But that answer can't include your child. So for my scenario, I can't be, well, my child made a mess, so that's why I'm annoyed. Mm-hmm. That's not the answer.
Right.
The example might be, or the thing might be is, I'm getting annoyed, okay. And the reason might be is because, well, I like a clean house. I clean my stuff. But for some reason, it annoys me because other people aren't doing the same thing that I am. Mm-hmm. I'm taking responsibility for it. I clean up. Why can't they? Another could be, we've discussed this numerous times. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's hearing me. I've said this so many times. My kids just, again, we're blaming our children.
Sure.
But it feels like you're not being heard. So that could be a reason. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different reasons why. And you feel disorganized, and in your own life. I know that I'm feeling disorganized. I don't have control over it, and so that's a sign of me not having control. There's all kinds of deep psychological stuff of why this occurs and why we get annoyed. So that's the third thing, is you have to understand why you're feeling that way. And then the fourth thing is that you take responsibility for your feelings, and this is the number one reason, or the number one thing that will have the impact. You recognize that it is your choice to feel annoyed. Mm-hmm. So, the house being messy is annoying. But I have a choice of whether I'm going to get really annoyed and let it ruin my evening. But I have a choice of whether I'm going to get really annoyed and let it ruin my evening, or I'm going to let this one go,
Right.
and I can handle it in a calm manner. I don't have to get really annoyed over this. And so what happens is when you take responsibility for your feelings, and sometimes it's even just acknowledging them, just acknowledging your feelings, like I'm feeling this way right now, and part of it's because of this, and this. You'd be surprised at how often those negative feelings will just go away. It happens with being annoyed, it can happen with anger, it can happen with sadness, it can happen with a lot of these feelings that we consider negative.
Yeah.
Is that you're taking responsibility and owning up to them. You know what? This is how I'm feeling right now. You know what? I don't feel very good right now. I am feeling annoyed. And that alone, just that act, can actually reduce how you feel, reduce that negativity.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it is an amazing thing, and yet so simple.
Right. Yeah. I have the same principles when it applies to friends or relationships or coworkers, colleagues, that type of stuff. I've been in situations where I've applied what you're saying there. Just take a step back, breathe, pause, figure out what's going on, and then understand what it is that I'm trying to feel. And as I get older, I'm becoming more adept at doing that.
For sure.
And I'm learning. It's really helped me because it diffuses situations, bad things, pretty easily. Like almost right away, I don't feel bad about like what's really going on. And then also it gives me clarity to take an appropriate action afterwards, whether it's through words or through just pausing and going, okay, let's discuss this later, or maybe crafting a message to convey later. Because it helps as being a manager, as being somebody who's in a position of leadership, as being a teacher.
Yeah.
I've had to learn how to be patient, understand
Totally.
what's going on,
Yeah.
and I mean, they're just like children, except they're a little older, and even in that context. And so, that being said, I'm thankfully it's mostly college people or above,
Right.
So I don't get a lot of that. But it does really apply in a lot of ways, and I think especially with children, because if you do that, then they're going to grow up to learn those principles as well.
Totally. And yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how powerful this kind of technique is that when you realize that you have control over how you feel, you have the ability to control whether you feel annoyed or not. It's a choice.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't necessarily in the beginning control, like I have difficulty in the beginning, I did, of controlling that my breath got
yeah.
faster, my heart rate went
Still
up.
got that
Like
caveman DNA.
yeah, there's something, but then as I've practiced this,
Yeah.
my ability to recognize those kinds of situations and then do those techniques just completely changes the dynamic of how I interact in those manners. Like,
Right.
whereas in the past, I would have gotten so annoyed, blown up, yelled, whatever. That happens so much less now.
Sure.
As a result of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's amazing. So, like I said, if you can just do this a little bit and practice it, your life will improve. Being annoyed isn't fun. Nobody wants to be around you when you're annoyed.
Right.
I mean, your kids, nobody wants to see you that way, your spouse. I mean, no, it's just not a good place to be. And for yourself, it doesn't feel good. So, when you aren't annoyed or you're not in that state, you're better positioned to be a parent. You're going to be more effective in your parenting. You're going to be more loving towards your children, even if they are little annoying kids.
Right.
You're going to be more patient and more calm and be a better parent. So,
Right.
Alan, if people want to share with us what annoys them about their kids, because then they
Or
can put it down on
themselves.
paper. Not paper, but electronically.
Paper too.
I'm from the old school. They can put it on electronic. They can comment and feedback. What should they do if they want to share that with us?
They should put it on paper and then email that paper to podcast@daduniversity.com. Maybe hit us up on our social media paper, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, pretty much everything we're on, Dad Univ or Dad University. Make sure you go to YouTube and actually go and see the videos that are up there for the Dad University. A lot of stuff is on the podcast. It's also in video format. And then if nothing else, please go to the podcatcher you're listening to us on and subscribe and say, hey, we appreciate your time that you're spending on there. Maybe leave a comment or two. put 5 stars or a thumbs up or however the format is there, and tell your friends. It really helps perpetuate the show.
Awesome. Well, as always, Alan, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Cut. That was good. Oh, let's
How you
see.
guys hanging in there? Good?
Everyone's hanging in there pretty good.
Good.
Okay, I'm trying to get here. All right. There's a lot of questions here.
Pick the top 3.
Well, no, we got to record, but I just wanted to see. This is pretty cool, though. Sorry, my finger's going. I got to figure out a better way to do
There's
that.
got to be I may have a solution.
Okay.
Now that you're doing this way.
The screen.
Well, that and the remember that system I have,
Yeah.
which you can stream live and we
Well, yeah, we had for sure. Yeah.
I'll
There's
bring it.
better ways of doing
Yeah, I'll bring
this.
it. Remind
All
me to
right.
bring it next time.
All right. So now I got to change. Alan will talk to you while I go change.
Is there a way to see the questions?
Um,
I'm now a dad too, so.
you push on there, and then you go there,
Okay.
and then some things pop up.
Okay, I'm not gonna touch this too much. Yeah. So Jason's in the middle of for the new people.
Wardrobe change?
The uninitiated. But yeah, so we're recording video as well for different purposes, and
How many different things can we do at once?
I don't know. You need more remotes, that's for sure.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay. But thanks for tuning in. It's really great to see that there's a participatory audience. And I think eventually what I'm thinking, I'm the co-host and producer of the show. I do the recordings. There's devices here I can actually show you. A little bit of thing there. Audio devices, etc. This thing is much I would have reported my brother. Yeah, I probably don't want to hit them. That's not the best way to articulate yourself. And I think some of the principles we just discussed is the best way. I used to have, I would say, anger management issues when I was a young lad. Here's a first-time father question. Nervous?
Cool.
Okay, I can address this question actually.
Sure.
I just
What
became
is
a
it?
dad. It was basically nervous. Girlfriend's pregnant and you're nervous. I just went through this not too long ago, and it was yeah. I was nervous, excited, frightened, everything went through the gamut of that. It gets easier because you'll start thinking about things in certain contexts. So, the tips, what I would do is, A, you got to go on with your life and you got to focus on certain things, but also B, you have people around you that will, who've probably either been through the same thing, and if they haven't, it's okay to talk about those things. There's nothing wrong with being nervous. Of course you got to be nervous. You're a new dad, you're starting a new dynamic of your life, and it changes a lot of who you are, really. I mean, my transition from when we were calling it dudes to dads, it was for a reason. I was the dude of the show. I didn't have kids, and Jason and I were about the same age. So I'm starting this whole process new, and I'm scared because it's like, oh my gosh, what do I do? There's nothing wrong with feeling nervous, and I mean, you may even want to communicate that with your girlfriend, just to and make it, let her know that, hey, I'm really nervous about this. I'm excited, but also nervous at the same time, and share some of that. I'm sure she's going through very similar things. So the more open you are with each other about how you're articulating and feeling, you can actually then set the expectation for the future. And I think it's really important to really just kind of communicate that and be honest with yourself and be open with yourself, because there's nothing wrong with feeling. You're going to go through those feelings. You can't pull those back and be like, well, I'm going to contain that and not going to do anything with it. It's actually will become the catalyst to being great in the future. Guarantee you. This nervousness will then turn into championing yourself in the long run. So I hope that's how it's become for me. I'm still in the process. Basically, the baby's 5 months old. And so I'm still nervous. There's a phase of nervousness. Are she healthy? Great. Is it then after the birth? Okay, great. Can she hear, see, all that stuff? Then it turns into all that stuff. And then, you go through those phases of being nervous. But then it gets easier. And every day it'll get easier in context of what's in your head. You always have a challenge ahead of you. There's always new things to think about, but it'll get easier as you develop yourself as a parent and as a father. So that's my take on that as the dude, and that's one to grow on. So we're,
Touch you around like Jedi.
I will not. Yeah.
We good?
Go back to Jason.
All right. No, that was good. I love that. It's good stuff. Obi-Wan. Alan's awesome. That's why he's here. Okay. We're ready. We're ready for the next podcast. It looks like a different day, and it's the same day, but that's the magic of cinema.
Cinematography.
Entertainment. All right, you guys ready for another one? Here we go. Thanks for sticking with us. This is an hour and 20 minutes in.
There you go.
I think I'm going to post this.
Well, no, you can take or just edit it and put chunks. Of
Yeah, we'll see.
The question parts.
We'll see. I might just leave all hour and 2 hours up.
Why not?
Very exciting. You can watch paint dry too. All right, here we go. Doing another podcast, episode 254. Cameras on. Microphone hopefully is on. Ready?
They're all activated.
Yep, I think so. Here we go. And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is the Dad University Podcast, episode 254.
254.
How are you this evening?
Well, I just realized we're past the halfway mark to 300.
What do you mean?
Like it's 250 episodes in. We're past 250.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing this now.
We do weird math
Less
every
than
time.
50. It's fuzzy math.
There's
You don't know what it is.
26 left, minus
All the way to
17.
350. No, like yeah, it's but we're getting closer to 300. It's just
I just stopped
certain
counting.
milestones.
It's funny. I was thinking about how many episodes we've done. I'm like, how many years now has this? What is it? 52. This is year 5.
or something like that. Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
How the
Did this for
heck
a
have
while.
we done this
Yeah,
long?
it's pretty amazing.
We're still doing it. It's crazy. Well, good stuff.
Yeah.
Tonight's episode: 10 things new dads don't need to worry about.
Ah, there you go. That was very meta. The question was
Yes.
being asked related to that.
Yeah. Here's the thing. As a new dad, you're going through a lot of stuff. It's easier for me now to look back because I went through this stuff years ago, and it's easy now to look back and look at very specific things that I stressed out about. I stressed out about all kinds of things that I really. Oh, my battery's running low. You know what? Yeah, I probably need to axe this, or I need to plug it in.
Okay.
So hold on a second. Here, no, that's an Android. Or do you have an Android? Yeah. Oh, okay. Hold on. In the middle. Well. Oh, I was going to use a plug versus. This
Yes,
doesn't
use
have-
your USB, and then you might have to bring the camera closer to you. A little bit.
No.
Oh, it works. Yeah, there we go. On the fly. Look at that.
Woo! Plugged in.
Cool.
Okay.
Caught it.
Focus. It's not focusing. Let's see. There we. Why isn't it focusing?
Mm.
Come on, Android. Why wouldn't it focus?
Ask them if they see us out of focus.
No, it's definitely out of focus.
Oh, it is. It's blurry.
Genius, Eric. Thank you. It's good having people around.
Yeah, I love it. We gotta do the live feeds more often.
I don't do this stuff very often. I'm not very technical. I just talk.
We should
I'm like
do-
the talking head, but thank you for that. That's so cool. All right.
You want to start over?
We're going to start
You
over.
want to start over?
Yeah, this is what happens with a recorded podcast is we just start over. So
Yeah.
the
don't hear
lighting,
any
and
of
I
it.
apologize. You know what? So the lighting here, maybe it's not, the lighting is a little bit bright on the phone because we have lights for our other cameras.
Yeah.
So it wasn't set up for this, so I apologize if it's a little.
This is on the spur of the moment.
Yeah. But That's okay. All right, here we go. Episode 254.
Okay, we'll do the countdown.
And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is the Dad University Podcast, episode 254.
Yeah.
Alan, good evening.
Good evening.
Got a lot going
Greetings.
on. Multiple cameras, live
Yeah,
streaming.
live
We're doing
streams.
it all.
Great.
Tonight's episode, 10 things new dads don't need to worry about.
Yeah, this was posed as a question, funny enough.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a question I get a lot.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, I'm more so like I'm worried about this, I'm worried about that.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I've been through this newborn phase many, many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've been through it twice now. And it's really easy now to look back and realize that some of these things that I worried about, and granted, I might be someone who worries a little bit more than others.
Sure.
I worried about things about the baby that I just realized now I didn't need to worry about. You know, at the time, these things seemed really important, you know, and I thought they were a big deal. I thought I had to deal with them. But the truth is, I'm looking back and I wish I wouldn't have spent that much effort, that much energy, and that much time worrying about this stuff. So, for this podcast, we are going to go over 10 things that new dads don't need to worry about because it might be something that you are worrying about. But here's the thing, too, I want to say is I understand why people are worried. I mean, having a baby is a brand new experience. Like for me, I wasn't around babies at all. I think the first child I ever held was my sister's child, but that's it. Like I wasn't around kids. I didn't babysit. I wasn't comfortable around children. So I really didn't know what I was doing. And so I worried about a lot of stuff. And I think if you guys can keep it in perspective, that not everything requires that you worry.
Right.
You know, and I think we worry about a lot of things. So I'll talk about them. The first one, worried about messing up. So here's the truth. You are going to mess up. You're going to mess up a lot. You know, I messed up changing the baby, holding the baby, putting clothes on, bathing the baby, like all different kinds.
Yeah.
Feeding, slipping, you know, there was things where I just realized I messed up. And I was really also worried about messing up.
Yeah.
And so if anything, that just made it worse, you know, because then you beat yourself up and, you know, you do all kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So realize that you don't need to worry about messing up because you are going to. That's the truth.
Yeah.
You're going to mess up. So just don't worry about that. Number two, saying no. Now, I'm not talking about saying no to your child. I'm talking about saying no to the people around you. So this is to your family, to your friends, to all kinds of stuff. What happens is the world doesn't stop.
Right.
So you have this child, events keep happening, you know, obligations are still there, friends are still doing things, your family still like stuff just still goes on. The difference is that now you have a child. And so your situation might be a little bit more complicated than it was before.
Right.
So you're dealing with a baby, and it's okay to say no. You know what? No, I'm not going to make that party at that time. I'm not. Or, you know what? I'm really tired. I'm not going to be able to go out. Whatever it is, it's okay to say no. And we feel often like we're worried about that part. We're worried what people are going to say or think about that. So, which I'm going to get to a little bit later, but it's the saying no part is don't worry about saying no. You're allowed to say no. I'm giving you permission to say no.
Right.
Okay? Third thing, getting everything. And what this means is you don't have to have 3 different strollers, depending on the terrain and the weather. The amount of sleeper seats and swings and toys and gadgets and mobiles and things like You don't need them all.
Right.
Okay. And I remember because I was on the live and I got this question. It's like, what should I buy?
Yeah.
Don't buy anything.
Yeah.
Get food, clothing,
Yeah.
diapers, and you need a car seat. I think at least in the U.S.
Yeah.
If you're going to take the child, but other than that, don't worry about getting so much stuff. Like, well, we need to have a changing station here and here and here. Like, so you need 4 of them. Like, what I realized, because so much of the stuff that we originally bought like really wasn't used that much, or I felt myself like being forced to use it because we had it. I wish I would have waited. It's like just gotten the diapers, the clothes, the food, and then kind of waited and see what I needed and what I wish I would have had.
Sure.
And then it would have been a little different, and maybe you go on a baby registry if you're lucky and you have that, or there's people are giving you gifts and it's like, but there's just so many things that you don't need and you don't use.
Yeah.
And I feel like we worry about getting all the right stuff.
Right.
A lot of and women do too, but the guys are like, oh, I want to make sure we have everything. It's all ready. Everything's nested. The perfect crib and the perfect, and it's like, no, you don't need it all. It's so much of it is a waste of money. It's too much stuff.
And I think, just to kind of capitalize on that thought is that you, as a dad, want to feel like you're important. And so you get all the things that you need to get and feel like you're the
You feel like you're contributing
You're
too.
contributing, yeah, exactly. So that is kind of that, subconscious, almost subconscious need to do that.
Yeah, no, we do that, of course. Like, we want to provide the best for our child.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's fine.
Yeah.
4th thing, what other people think. And I alluded to that in the saying no and giving you the permission to say no. But your family and friends are going to have opinions. Let them have one. That's fine. But just don't let it get to you.
Right.
You have to not be concerned with what other people think. You might have parents or in-laws, and they might tell you how they would do something or how should something be done. In those instances when somebody says something like that, like maybe somebody's saying, well, when your child does this, you should say, I'll take that into consideration.
Sure. Yeah.
That is a great response.
Yeah. I appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. Appreciate the feedback, or I'll take that into consideration. It's a response that is respectful to them because you're listening. It shows that you're listening.
Yeah.
And you'll evaluate it. And you're not saying no, how dare you say that.
Right.
You just say, hey, you know what? I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah.
In your mind, you might be saying, heck no, there's no way
Right.
that I'm taking that advice.
Sure.
But it is something that you can say. The 5th thing, not getting enough sleep. So I'm saying don't worry about not getting enough sleep. You probably won't get enough sleep in the beginning.
Yeah.
But don't worry about it, because you will eventually get proper sleep and you eventually will be fine.
Yeah.
And you'll get through it.
Yeah.
In the beginning, yes, you might be a little bit sleep deprived for whatever, depending on your scheduling and everything else, but it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
And so the baby eventually learns how to sleep. You get through it.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things I think, dads worry about, moms worry about, every new parent worries about. The 6th thing, no more me time. Guys are very concerned about the me time, the dude time, the, whether you hang with your buds, you want to exercise, you have a hobby, whatever it is, you can still do it. Just because you have a child doesn't mean that you can't do it. You just might have to manage your time a little differently. You may have to prioritize a little bit. One of the things you might be able to look at is like, how much time am I watching TV or on my phone or doing social media, whatever. You'd be surprised at how much time that can free up.
Sure.
Just those activities alone of just being on a screen, passively on a screen of some kind, it can free up a lot of time. I watched TV somewhat, and instead I remember just, I don't even need to watch it.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend the time with my child.
Yeah.
And so for my wife and I too, is we were very supportive of each other in doing that. We worked out, we exercised, and we both wanted to do it. So we had to coordinate the time so that both of us got our time in.
Yeah.
And it's just, that was a communication thing, and saying, okay, you go first, then I'll go, because we worked out at different places. And it didn't mean just because we had a child that we couldn't work it out.
Sure.
You just have to be a little bit more nimble, and you have to prioritize.
Yeah.
And that'll happen. So, just I saw a post the other day. Someone had said, it's like, my life is over. You know,
It's a terrible way to look
it's
at
like,
it.
no, your life's gonna change. It's
Right.
not over.
It's called adapting.
Sorry. Number 8. No, sorry. Number 7, not having enough experience. Do you know how many millions of men have had children prior to you?
Right.
And they've been fine. So not having experience, it's interesting too, like some of the tactical stuff, like how to change a diaper, how to burp a baby. Like you become an expert at that, like after a day or two.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. And so a lot of guys will worry about that kind of stuff. You know, the very tactical things that the truth is yeah, you do it a couple times and you're fine.
Right.
You know, worry about the other deep stuff, about being a good dad and communication and affection and all those other things. You know, how to, you know, not having experience in doing a diaper is not that big of a deal.
Right.
Okay.
One of my colleagues said, a lot of dumb people have kids. I think you'll be fine.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, millions of people have had children, so I think it'll be fine. You know, yeah. So not having enough experience in fatherhood is not necessarily a reason to be worried.
Yeah.
So, number 8, achieving milestones. So this starts, and the worry about this starts right when the child is born. And the way, because of that is, they give you a weight and the length of the baby. That immediately starts you comparing it to other babies and other situations.
They
that
literally
happen.
put percentiles.
So that's what happens. Is that you then go to the pediatrician and they say, oh, your baby's head is 95% and the body's only 60%.
Right.
So your child has a big head, you know, or whatever the thing might be.
They don't say it that way.
They don't
but
say
yeah,
that
but
at
they
all.
yeah, you can
we,
infer.
we think that.
Oh, of course.
And so what happens is that from very early on is we start comparing our children to these milestones and knowing, oh, well, most children by this time can roll over. Well, children by this time can sit up. By this time, now, some of that is that we just want to know that our child is developing properly
Sure.
or whatever. But the truth is that every child is different.
Yeah.
They develop at different times, different speeds. They have different development levels. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, if there's a severe development delay and your pediatrician then says that you should be concerned, well, which they won't say it that way, but then, okay, then maybe be concerned. But the worry on a consistent basis of like, his head's too big, or, you know, the body's not enough, you know,
Yeah.
you don't have to worry about that stuff. Like over the first year, there's just not that much of that kind of stuff that makes sense to worry about. You know, as long as they are thriving, they're eating, they're going to the bathroom, like,
Yeah.
they're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is, I mean, there's a disclaimer. I'm saying it's not that you shouldn't have a doctor look at your child,
Right.
but, you know, they'll give you reasons why you should be concerned or something. But before that, you shouldn't. You shouldn't
Right.
worry that much.
Yeah.
And so those milestones keep going. You know, when are they going to crawl? When are they going to walk?
Yeah,
When are
if
they
there's
going to
something to really be alarmed about, they'll tell you straight out, hey, you need to be really concerned about this. Otherwise, it's more of a, on average, this is the thing.
This is what happens. Yeah,
and
don't
you-
worry about
you
it.
infer for it.
And they end up catching up anyways. I mean, it doesn't stop. It's like, you know, when they're in 4th grade, they should
Yeah,
really
I
be
know.
able to do this.
Yeah,
you know?
really.
By the time he's 18, he should be able to handle himself.
When he's 42,
He hasn't tied his shoes yet. You know, that's a problem maybe, but or you need to check into that.
right.
Number 9, spoiling the baby. I've had people that have been concerned that giving too much affection might spoil the baby. I've actually had that question. There really isn't anything where you're going to spoil the baby by holding them too much or giving them too much affection.
Right.
You know, especially for that first year, like I said. It's just, the baby is going to feel loved, secure. Who doesn't want to feel that way?
Yeah, seriously.
You know, so there's nothing wrong with that. You're not going to give them too much affection. So chill out about spoiling the baby. You're not going to spoil the
Yeah.
baby.
Matter of fact, doctors will even say that.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to spoil this baby. Just
Right.
give it as much affection as you possibly
Totally. And then number 10, bonding with the baby. Now, a lot of dads will worry about bonding with the baby. I did a video about bonding with your baby. I don't know if we did the podcast episode about that. But basically, it can take time.
Yeah.
Like for me, I didn't bond with my son was my first right away. It took me a couple months,
Yeah.
and that was spending time. It was doing baths and reading and affection and all of that stuff that eventually it came around and I felt that bond.
Yeah.
But I think dads worry that they're not having the bond because they see oftentimes the mom have a really strong bond with the child and these intense feelings. Well, if the child was carried for 9 months and then breastfed, and she spends more time with the child, yes,
Yeah.
she's going to have a better bond with the child than you are.
Yeah.
So that's something to not worry about. The bond will come, spend that time with the child, and eventually it'll just work itself out,
Yeah.
and you will feel that. So, Alan, if anybody has any feedback or things that maybe they worried about but they feel like they shouldn't have, regrets on worry, what should they do?
You should stop worrying and email us, podcast@daduniversity.com. Hit us up on all our social networks, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. We're all there, Dad Univ or Dad University. Please go to YouTube. There's a variety of great videos by Jason, and I might even appear on one of them. I don't know. And subscribe to that network and share it with your friends. But more importantly, if you really enjoy the podcast, please go to those podcatchers that you're listening to us on right now and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up, hit the 5-star reviews. It really helps perpetuate the show. And share it with your friends and show us some love.
Awesome. Well, Alan, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Whoa.
All right.
That was 3 down, right?
3 down.
One more. We've got 4. We're doing 4 tonight. Whew. It's almost 8 o'clock.
I got a little.
Yeah. All right.
Let me plug this in.
All right. And I'm going to change once again.
There.
Different recording. Let me turn these
Yeah.
ones off.
You can point them at me if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to give you Sir Alan.
Yeah. Plugging in
Is that
your laptop. Because I don't want to run out of power as we're in midstream here. Thank you for all of those who have hung in here. And
It's like a marathon.
yeah. So
This is a
live marathon. How many? Well, it's only been 2 hours.
yeah, almost 2 hours.
Behind the scenes, I'm taking some
Life.
refreshment, water. Actually, this is a sponsor. So
You can plug the sponsor again.
yeah,
Pure
Pure Boost
/ Dad University.
/ Dad University. You probably should put that in the podcast more.
What's that?
We should probably integrate that in the podcast more.
Yeah, I agree.
Or just record a commercial and just have Wes put it in.
No, they are good.
No, it's really, actually, I do enjoy this.
Great
This is
sponsors
totally
and great
genuine plug here. It's a little thing you put in your water and get a little energy, a little caffeine that has some vitamins in it as well.
It's good stuff.
It's actually pretty good, and it tastes good. And there's no sugar,
Nope.
so it's great. Better than coffee, at least
I
right
don't
now.
like coffee.
It's late. You don't like coffee?
No, I don't like the flavor.
Oh yeah, it's one of those acquired tastes. It's like beer.
Yeah. No,
And
I
it's
don't.
funny. I don't know. Like, why would you acquire if you don't like it? Like, but, yeah.
All right. We ready? Ready. Oh.
Can I answer a couple questions?
Oh, baby Blue says, any sponsors you hated? No. If somebody was wanted to be a sponsor and I didn't like them,
They're not gonna be a sponsor.
They're not going to be a sponsor.
Yeah.
We're just starting to take that on and sponsorships and
Yeah.
creating those relationships, and it's been pretty interesting now that we've gotten a little bit larger. So, but it's fun. It's no, I'm only going to work with companies that I believe in and that I like the people, and that's just something that sort of the integrity of it.
Yeah, this kind of happened organically, literally.
Yeah. No, this is good. So, all right, we are going to do the last recording of the night of the podcast. This is let me see what we got.
255.
255, how to deal with an overbearing mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So yeah, this question's been coming up a couple times.
Okay.
So I got it on my stream. I just got a message on Facebook the other day as well, and so yeah, I'll, see what I can shed some light on this. All right, ready.
Okay.
And we are back.
We are back.
I'm Jason Kreidman.
I'm Alan Bush.
And this is the Dad University Podcast, episode 255.
255.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Good night.
Greetings.
Feeling good?
Yeah.
Right on.
Thanks to our sponsor.
He's got his Pure Boost.
Hello, Pure Boost.
GoPureBoost.com/Dad University.
Yeah.
They've got a coupon code. You get 50% off your first order. It's
Yeah.
great. Love our sponsors.
Good stuff, yeah.
Appreciate them. Tonight's episode 255, how to deal with an overbearing mother-in-law. So, interesting. I have been asked, this has come up recently. I was on a live stream, been asked. I got a Facebook message. It's come up a couple of times. And so I wanted to address it, see if I can help out in any way. How to deal with an overbearing mother-in-law.
Right.
Here's the thing: is I'm lucky. I've got great relationships with my in-laws, but needless to say, it's not our family. You know what I'm saying? Like, integrating with any other people where you're going to be close, there's always going to be issues that you might have to deal with. So, and the same on our side. I mean, my wife has to come over. We have certain ways that we do things and, familiarity. And so, I'm taking this extreme because people have asked this about, somebody who's overbearing.
Yeah.
But these are going to be some tips to just deal with the family in general. Okay. And so I'm going to provide some specific tips on how to deal with, deal with it in general, the other family or the other side of the family. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether it's a mother-in-law, father-in-law, your wife's sister, a brother, it doesn't matter. This is going to apply to anybody on your wife's side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is my first thing I'm going to talk about. If there is a problem on her side of the family, don't get involved.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't get involved in it. This was actually advice that I received from my mother many years ago. Mm-hmm. She had dealt with some issues on my father's side in interacting with the in-laws, and just made it clear that going over family lines was a no-no. Mm-hmm. And so that was advice that she had said. And part of it was that if something was bad to happen, there is the possibility of no return.
Right. Yeah.
Okay? Because it's not your blood. It's not your blood family. And so unconditional love is a little bit different when it's in-laws. It's not your own family. And so, give an example. Let's say you have an argument with your wife's sister. You may not be able to recover. Mm-hmm. Whereas if she has an argument with her sister, there's tons of history. They can recover. It's a different dynamic.
Right.
And so you need to stay out of crossing that family line. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's just a general rule that, if there's some major issue, stay out.
Right.
Let your wife handle it. You need to discuss the issue with your wife and let her handle it. So she's the one that needs to talk to her family. So if it's specifically we're talking about a mother-in-law, she needs to talk to her mom, whatever the issue is. Now, if she's unable or unwilling to do that, well, then you have an issue between you and your wife.
Right.
And you've got to deal with that.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. I mean, if something was happening with your wife and your parents, you have to be the one to handle that. That's for you to solve, you to step in, and you to handle it. Your wife shouldn't be getting in arguments with your parents. It goes both ways. This is a two-way street. You just don't cross that family line. And I've had tons of people over the years when I've talked about this, have said, well, what about this? And I've been in this situation where I have to do, like, I'm just giving you my advice. It is fairly black and white. The fact is you don't cross the line.
Right.
And sometimes that can be very difficult to do, but in the end, it is the better thing. It almost always works out to be better that way. So you've got to talk with your wife. She's got to deal with that. It's going to be something that she has to deal with. So now with that out of the way,
Heavy sigh.
I want to talk specifically about dealing with an overbearing mother-in-law. So what happens is that when you have a child, sometimes, wow, it was shutting off and back on. It was going off. It was disconnecting. I apologize. All right, I'm gonna start over. So when you have a child, sometimes you get a little bit more sensitive to people's suggestions or advice or their parenting style.
Right.
And so, it was interesting. My mom used to say something. She'd say, what happens at, it was interesting. My mom used to say something. She'd say, what happens at grandma's house stays at grandma's house.
Sure.
And there was a time she was an amazing grandma and an amazing mom, but she had given the kids candy when they were really young. My son, or it was just my son maybe at the time, was really young, gave him a bunch of candy, and we were so strict about sugar and all this stuff, especially when my child was really young.
Yeah.
And I was pretty upset about it. Like, I found out, I said she gave him the stuff, it was like a bunch of chocolate or something. She then sat me down and had this talk with me and just said, if my grandkids remember me and remember my house as being fun, and hey, that's where I got the candy, and I remember grandma used to give this to me, that's okay.
Yeah.
Let that happen.
Yeah.
And after my mom passed away, I, of course, totally got it.
Yeah.
Because I wanted them to have that kind of memory. Granted, they were really young when she passed away, so they don't have a ton. They have some pictures. We have some pictures of it.
Right. But
it is those kinds of memories that your parents are going to do things that you might not agree with. Or and especially, let's say, the mother-in-law, she may have a totally just different outlook on things because she is now a grandma.
Yeah.
She's not the mom. And so I know with my mom, she felt that way, and that was very different than, I wasn't brought up with a ton of sugar, but now that she was a grandma, all of a sudden she's giving the young kid a bunch of sugar.
Yeah, of course.
But it was it was her way. She just wanted to make sure that they had so much fun and they enjoyed themselves, and it was it was playtime.
Yeah.
So I was upset with it, but I got over that, and especially, like I said, as she passed, I appreciated that a little bit more. And so when it's our in-laws, or even sometimes our own parents, we do things differently than they do. And I want you to just keep those things in mind, and that story that I'm talking about as I go into these. So these are a couple of things to keep in mind if you've got an overbearing mother-in-law. First thing is, it's a package deal, okay? So you probably knew what you signed up for when you said I do. It's, parents, the siblings, the aunts, the uncles, all of it. They come with the package when you marry. That's part of the evaluation, if you will, of when you are courting your significant other.
Yeah.
The family is part of that. And so if your wife is close with her family and spends time with them, and you have to keep in mind that they're a package deal. And so her mom is part of the package. And so I just saying that to keep that in perspective, because when you have that perspective, you'll have a little bit more respect for it and understanding this is her family. This is part of her. And so if you are deciding to marry, that is part of it. You're marrying into the family as well.
Right.
You knew that. And granted, it can be a little bit different when you have a child. But it's usually you're not surprised that the mother-in-law is overbearing. It's not all of a sudden it comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, right.
It's like you understood, and that was part of the deal. Second thing, be nice. So yes, I am saying to smile, be nice. You don't have to get along perfectly. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to fake the relationship per se, if it's not there.
Right.
But I am saying to smile, be nice, and you know what? You should be nice and respectful.
Sure.
I mean, they're a parent.
Yeah.
It's her parent.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do have to just bite your tongue and smile. That's what happens. So keep that in mind, is that you are just being who you are. You're being yourself, and that's you being nice.
Right.
Number 3, set boundaries. Well, your wife needs to set the boundaries. As I talked about in the beginning, discuss the boundaries that you want with your wife, and when you both agree, she needs to communicate that to her mom.
Right.
Does she need to call before she comes over? Does the baby need to go to sleep at a certain time? Do you have these rules about wishes and instructions? Now, keep in mind that those rules might not be followed, okay? But you certainly can try and communicate those and set those boundaries.
Right.
And then that your wife, if those boundaries are broken, you at least have something to say. But you have to keep in mind too is that the mother-in-law kind of has to agree to those boundaries.
Right.
I mean, you can have all the boundaries you want, but if the other side doesn't care,
Right.
boundaries don't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's different when you're coming together and you're communicating, you're saying, okay, hey, listen, here's what we would like. Are you okay with that? And then you have to make that decision. Like, if you don't like the fact that when your child goes over to your in-laws, that they stay up really late, well, then don't let them go over there the day before something that's really important, or choose not to let them go over there.
Sure.
You have to make that decision, or either be okay with it, and you can't have both.
Right.
Like, you can't say, you know what, I really want my in-laws to watch the kids, but there's a ton of rules.
Right.
And I learned that one too. Like with my mom, even, I said, I didn't want them eating the candy,
Right.
but you know what? Part of the rule was she gets to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't really have much say. And she kind of saying, listen, I'm watching your child, leave me alone.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I raised you, so.
yeah. And so I kind of understood that. And so those boundaries are going to be set.
Yeah.
Number 4, don't take it personally. Here's the thing. Somebody had asked me advice the other day, and she may be an unhappy woman. She might be just really opinionated. You can't let it affect you. She could be critical of your parenting or how you do things. That's great. Like, let her have an opinion, but you don't have to take that personally. You just let her have that opinion, and you'll understand it. That's her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Just because somebody has an opinion doesn't mean you have to take it.
Right.
And you don't have to take it personally. It's not a personal dig on you all the time. It could be like how she sees things, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Number 5, take it into consideration. So we mentioned this on the last podcast. When somebody says something that maybe provides advice and you're not asking for it, a good phrase to use is like you. I think you mentioned it. Like, thanks for the feedback. We will take that into consideration.
Right.
So if your mother-in-law is saying, well, you know what, when you have the baby, you really should swaddle him like this and do that. Well, you know what? Thank you for that. We'll take that into consideration. Now, that is a respectful way of saying, I hear you.
Right.
And that's often what somebody wants to know. Like, somebody wants to feel that, especially like a parent, a mother-in-law, grandparent.
You
They just want to know, yeah, you're validated. Like, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do it,
Right.
but you're not saying that.
Sure.
You're saying, I hear you, I will take that into consideration. And you might or you might not. It doesn't mean that you have to do it. So, like I said, even if you have no intention of taking her advice, just that you are considering it might be enough. And that can be something that can quench that fire that might be happening. Number 6, get to know her. And I mean really get to know her. I was having a conversation with someone the other day a dad, and he has some friction with his mother-in-law. And he spent a couple of hours alone with her. They went out, I think they went out to lunch, they were talking, and he came back, he was telling me the story. He's like, we got it. We have an understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like, totally flipped the relationship. It had been like kind of sour for years. Like, he took the time to really get to know her, asked her questions about her past, like what she grew up, like expressed an interest in her, and then also, talked through some things that, they had. The relationship is absolutely 180 degrees different, just as a result of spending that time together. And it was really cool to hear that. Ask questions about who she is, where she came from, and you might get some insight as to why she might be the way she is.
Yeah.
You think she's overbearing, but did she have a rough childhood? Maybe she came from a privileged childhood, so she was used to having really nice things. Mm-hmm. Or maybe she didn't have anything, she came from nothing and then built herself. Like, you just don't know the perspective. So you might start to develop a little bit of empathy, which, goes along with that. Is like, you might go, oh, you know what, now it kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. Like, I understand her a little bit better. Number 7, take responsibility for your own actions. This is a tough one. Because we don't like to do this. We don't like to take responsibility for our own actions. Yeah. Could you have played a part in how the relationship has been a little frustrating and tense? So have you been truly nice? Have you been giving her a chance? Have you been making the effort that you should be making? And you have to take that responsibility. So think back to how you have been dealing with her. Could you may have changed some things? Could you have done some things differently? Just take responsibility for your own actions.
Sure.
We all have a part in a relationship. There's 2 sides, sometimes 3,
right, yeah.
Where there's the truth, not truth, and something in the middle.
Yeah.
And so you just have to realize that. Number 8, stop having expectations. Now, this is probably the most important thing. When we have kids, we often have expectations on our own parents. Mm-hmm. And that is that we expect that they're going to watch the kids, or, take care of, be involved, whatever. Or they're going to do things for us, they're going to get us certain things, or whatever it might be, that you have expectations. You can't have expectations of your parents. You just can't.
Yeah.
And it's not fair to them. It's not fair to have expectations of anybody, really, but, sometimes we're living in the real world.
Yeah.
But having expectations almost always leaves you disappointed.
Yeah.
When you have the expectation that someone is going to do something or act a certain way or be a certain way, it's the same thing. We have this problem with our kids. We have these expectations that we lay on them, and we do this with our parents, our in-laws, that we think that they should be a certain way and they're not, and then we're disappointed.
Right.
So you just got to stop that. You got to stop having those expectations that, well, I can't believe my mother-in-law didn't watch the kid, or she was supposed to. Like, stop. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And when you stop that, you'll probably start having a better relationship. And then the last one, and this is just so important, and my mother taught me this about relationships, and number 9 is look at their intention.
Yeah.
So instead of looking what was said, what was done, how it went, whatever, look at the situation based on her intention. Quite often, the intention of a mother-in-law is good.
Sure.
They love their child.
Yeah.
They love their daughter.
Yeah.
They love the grandchild.
Yeah.
So the intention typically is good. They just may not know how to go about doing whatever it is that they're doing.
Right.
Or they say the wrong thing. And they just really don't know the proper way to do something.
Right.
And so that can come across in a wrong way, or a bad way, or a slighted way, or whatever. But keep in mind the intention, and that's really how you evaluate a situation.
Yeah.
And I was taught that pretty early on, that what was their intention?
Yeah.
And I try to do that with my kids. I try to do it with my wife. It's like if I get upset or they're getting upset, it's like, what was their intention in this?
Yeah.
And of course, there are times where the intention isn't good.
Yeah.
They were trying to hurt you.
Yeah, if you're being, that's one thing I don't like is maliciousness.
Yeah, of
but
course.
if they're not being malicious, then I would look at their intentions and say, okay, what can I extract from what you're telling me right now? Because
Well, I was trying to spend time with the baby,
Yeah.
or I was trying to help you do whatever.
I want you to understand how, so you don't make the same mistakes I did, and maybe
Right.
the execution wasn't always as good as it could be, but it's like, okay, I get what you're
Right.
trying to say here.
Yeah. So these are tips, just in dealing with an overbearing mother-in-law. And as I said, I mean, most of the time, or I didn't say most, but often, the intention is good, and often it's not worth the argument either. Having grandparents involved in the child's life can be amazing, and just because they don't do things the way that you do them, or you feel like they're overbearing, you're often going to be holding on to this resentment, anger, whatever the feelings are, and it's a waste of your own energy.
Right.
Holding on to those emotions is just a waste.
Yeah.
It's a waste for yourself. So, Alan, if anybody has any questions, feedback, praise, they want to send us money, what should they do?
They should send the money to podcast.
Alan.
Yeah, Alan at Dad University. Podcast at Dad University to email us, to get in touch with us via email. If you want to do it through social media, you can go to any of the university Dad Univ social handles. It's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Please go to YouTube, actually. Subscribe to that network and check out all the great Dad University videos on there. And if nothing else, go to the podcatcher that you're listening to us on right now and sign up, subscribe, leave a thumbs up and or a comment and a 5-star review, and then share it with your friends, as all of that stuff really helps perpetuate the show.
Awesome. Well, Alan, as always, thank you.
Thank you.
And we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Well, hello, YouTube. Sorry that we've been a little bit not talking directly to YouTube, but yeah, we were recording 4 of our podcasts. Let me see what we got here. I missed a lot of questions. Whew. Let's see. Gosh, thank you guys for a lot of people catching up on the content. Awesome. Sorry for my finger.
Yeah.
From Malaysia, Philadelphia. Awesome.
That's awesome. All over the world. Philadelphia's late there.
Tasha, good to see you again. Great to have you back on. Jeremy, good to see you. Sorry with my finger rolling here. I got to figure out a better way for this. My finger's like all over the screen.
Okay. We'll do the feed thing.
My son's 1. I work full time and spend my evenings with him and my wife. I feel bad for not being home for 2/3 of every day. How do I manage this? So, Jeremy, I don't know if you're still on, but this is a good question. What you have to do is make it quality time. So the quantity of time isn't as important as the quality of the time. And so what you want to do is, at the time that you are there, you're just attentive towards the child. You're doing bath times, you're doing feedings if it's a baby. You're doing all these things, and you just want to spend that quality time with them. The quality time is really what's important. It's what they're going to remember. The quantity of time, it's like you just can't be on for a long amount of time, and you're on your phone, you're distracted, you've got other stuff to do. So I would say just the number one thing is just make that time quality, and that's gonna really impact the child's life.
I ran into a similar issue because teaching and
Some children don't have what he has, but we were homeless last year and I grew up with moments of poverty as well. How do I help him be appreciative? Yeah, I did a video on gratitude and teaching gratitude. And part of that is, there's a couple different things, is, showing them obviously situations that are not as fruitful and as positive as they are in. And then it's discussing with them those kinds of things, and just saying what we're really lucky, or what we've worked really hard. I mean, it's not always luck. We're fortunate and we're grateful for what we do have. And you just keep repeating that, and you show that, by by you talking about that and showing appreciation for the people around you and for the things that you have by taking care of your stuff, it shows that you are grateful, and then it's also giving back. Giving back is a great way to do that. Showing the kids of helping other people. So maybe you go and help other people who are homeless, and volunteer at a shelter. There's all kinds of things that you can do to teach the kids that they're very fortunate, and you don't want them to grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth. And so, another thing too, which really is good, is responsibilities around the house. You can call them chores, whatever you want, but give them a lot of responsibilities, even young. They need to clean up. They need to do things for themselves. A lot of that stuff, simple tasks. I'll give you one. Because I just saw this the other day again. I've mentioned this before. Kids probably first grade, something like that, and the mom, and this happens all the time at the school, the mom is carrying the child's backpack. If a child is old enough to have a backpack, they need to carry it themselves. And so what this does is that this gives the child the indication that things are going to be done for them instead of them doing things on their own. And so these are little things, but you think about it, it's like when you're tying your child's shoes for them. No, they need to learn to tie their shoes. If they're wearing those shoes and they have a tie, they can tie them, or you can help them learn how to do that. So there are some things, getting them dressed, all kinds of stuff like that, where you can help them learn it for themselves. They'll start to appreciate things much more. So we're dying here on battery. I don't know what's happening, but also it's 2 hours and 11 minutes for a stream of podcasts. I don't think anybody stayed the entire time, but for those of you who have made it this far, or you'd maybe fast forward it through, it's a late night. Well, it's not that late actually. It's 8:20, but for an old person like me, it's late. Considering I got up at 4:40 this morning and it's now 8:20, that's a long day. I wasn't at work that early. I think I got to work about 8. So that's a 12.5-hour day or so here. But you know what? Fulfilling, worth it. Wouldn't mind doing it again tomorrow, but I'm not going to do it tomorrow. I've got other stuff going on. But I will be here. We'll be answering questions at some other time this week. I'll come back live, and I just want to thank you guys. I appreciate everybody who's supporting the channel, subscribing to the channel. And Alan, you want to say hello again?
Hello again. Thanks for everyone who's tuned in. And it should be actually every time we record, you should probably do something similar to this.
Yeah, we might.
So we've been mulling around.
We'll see.
With the way we would stream some of these performances and show recordings, and I actually like the idea of this live feed. A lot of the feedback, a lot of the questions were really fantastic. Actually, we get questions through email and through the channels, but when you get that live feedback, we could actually probably integrate.
Yeah, the hard part is just managing and having somebody answer all those questions, or see all those questions at the same time. So.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, Alan's more talented. He can multitask better than I can. So, all right. Well, everybody, have a wonderful week. If you're watching this in a replay, thank you. Share it with your friends. It's been a long day, but we're gonna get it done. All right. Thanks, everybody. Talk soon.